Yeah, good afternoon. Happy Saturday to everybody. I hope the audio is not bugging out. It looks like it is. It looks like it's peaking a little bit too much here. Let me drop that down a little bit, but we should be good. So I've been looking forward to this conversation for the last couple of days about the Trump and Ron DeSantis dynamic. The Trump and wow, I'm yellow now. Let me fix that too. I look, geez. About the Trump and Ron DeSantis primary, the Trump and Ron DeSantis dynamic, the entire discussion that a lot of folks have been having around this topic, and it's bothering me a bit because I am old enough to remember when we all celebrated Ron DeSantis, and if there's one thing that I don't want to do, it's be like the mainstream media and lose credibility over something ridiculous like backtracking or changing our story because it doesn't fit our current narrative. And I think, unfortunately, that's what a lot of people are doing right now. It's if you see the color changing a little bit, I apologize. I'm just trying to tweak that. We have a little bit of different lighting in the room right now than we normally do. But one thing that I want to bring up, and one thing that I really want to no, it's fine. One thing that I really want to start off with is that, look, this is not about am I supporting Trump? Am I not supporting Trump? Everyone knows right now, I've said it a million times, and I don't want to get that accusation today. And if I do, I'm going to be very upset. That, oh, you're turning your back on Trump. Oh, you're betraying him. Oh, you're a rhino. You're this, you're that. Folks, if there's one thing that I honestly, and especially because I've dealt with this before with several people, when someone disagrees with us this much, starting to call them a rhino. I mean, let me just tell you something. If Ron DeSantis was a rhino, the entire track record that we all celebrated not that long ago, we did. Don't come here and tell me, no, I always knew this. No, you didn't. I've been streaming for a couple of years and I've dealt with a lot of the same faces and a lot of the same people, and we've had them viewing the shows for a couple of years. I'm old enough to remember when we celebrated what Ron DeSantis was doing in Florida. I'm old enough to remember when we started saying, "Make America Florida." I'm old enough to, and by old enough, I'm not trying to say I'm older than you. I'm trying to say I remember 7 months ago. That's how ridiculous this is getting. Now, I'm all about constructive criticism. We've had that stream and we've had that discussion before. I'm all about being fair. What I don't do is rush to judgment. What I don't do is flip the F out because I think it's going to feel good. What I don't do is sensationalize. Sometimes, sure. But I try not to. And what I won't do in this primary, and it's not about, you're afraid to say this, or Donald Trump, you're souring on him, or it's not about that, folks. It's not about that. It's not about any of that. It's about, do we want to maintain our credibility or not? That's what it's about. Do we want to maintain our credibility with ourselves or not? Folks, that's what it's about. I'm still tweaking colors here. I apologize if it bothers a bunch of you. I'm just trying to make sure it looks better because we got a little bit of different lighting right now, and I'm just trying to. I know someone said I looked yellow and looked like I have jaundice. It's like, no, it's not what it is. It's just we're operating in a little bit of a different setting, and we'll just have to live with this here. I'm talking about maintaining credibility. I'm talking about what I said 7-8 months ago, still remaining true to today. Not having to constantly go back and say, well, actually, we were wrong about this, that, and the other thing. It's why not rushing to judgment for me personally is important. Now, I will qualify, I will admit, I will stipulate, point stipulated, that Ron DeSantis over the last couple of months has surrounded himself with people that I wouldn't necessarily want a presidential candidate to surround himself with. Sure. that Ron DeSantis has taken, should be reconnected now, folks. Sorry about that. Yeah, I should be back up now. My point is, I know that Ron DeSantis has surrounded himself with people who we don't feel comfortable with. Now it's disconnected again? What is going on? I don't understand how I can't get through a single stream over the last 2 weeks. This is just insanity. I should be connected now.
You have to refresh it.
All right. Oh, actually, we always tell people not to refresh. Refresh. Okay. Once again, and this is like the third time I have to say it. I understand it says it's disconnected again. I don't get it. Am I connected or not connected? I need some help here, folks, because, yeah, connection successful. Okay, we're back. There we go. Are we good here? Do we have, let me just double check and see what, because I'm getting numbers from all over the place that it's on, it's not on, it's on, it's not on.
Everybody can see you, though.
Everybody can see. Okay, good. How about we try this test? How many fingers am I holding up? Let's see. Everyone says it's all good. All right. Once again, I understand that Ron DeSantis has surrounded himself with people that we're not necessarily comfortable with. I know that he's made statements on Ukraine that we're not necessarily comfortable with. I know that we have heard him, and I know that we have heard the rumors that have come out of the Trump campaign that we're not necessarily comfortable with. Folks, I love Donald Trump to death, but in yesterday's statement that really, to me, I had a hard time reading with a straight face, all the bad things about Florida, it's like, did someone has to remind Donald Trump that he lives there? In that statement, he cited a report from ESPN, folks. You have to kind of question who's guiding him. Now, I wholeheartedly support Donald Trump in 2024. So anybody, when we open the phone lines in, call and go, you're backstabbing, I'm hanging up on you immediately. I'm not even considering right now where we stand another candidate in the 2024 presidential primary. You understand? You hear what I'm saying? I support Donald Trump. I support Donald Trump in 2024. Unapologetically. I'm proud to say that. However, what I find very strange is that when I say, hey, I support Donald Trump in the 2024 primary, but I don't think Ron DeSantis is a bad guy, all of a sudden, it's like, what did he say? What? What do you mean, what? It's about being fair, ladies and gentlemen. I don't regret saying something like that. I don't think, what happened to the lighting now?
It got dark outside.
It got dark outside. Ay.
I can just close this, you don't worry about it.
No, hold on, because then it's going to get darker in here. I got to change that. There we go. That's going to be a big distraction. All right, so I can't, for the life of me, understand why giving Ron DeSantis credit is like taking points away. It's like you have to virtue signal your support for Donald Trump. You have to virtue signal your support for Donald Trump by taking shots at Ron DeSantis. I don't see how that makes sense at all. It's like a parent of a trans child virtue signaling their wokeness by saying they chopped their kid's breasts off at age 13. It's like that. Does that make any sense? Do you like seeing things like that? Do you like behaving like that? I won't behave that way. It should not be taboo to say Ron DeSantis has done good things for Florida. If I say Ron DeSantis has done good things for Florida and cite the good things that he did for Florida, that should not, to anybody who send up a red flag and go, he doesn't like Trump. One has nothing to do with the other, as a matter of fact. Nothing to do with the other. I want to ask you, do you think this is a bad thing? Florida has passed a bill that is going to allow the death penalty for sexual abusers of children. Is this a bad thing? Did Ron DeSantis do this because he's a rhino? That would be the first time I'd ever heard a rhino opposing the death penalty for sex abusers of children. So this story out of the New York Post about, and I think this is great. I think if you sexually abuse a child, you should be punished to the fullest extent. Florida lawmakers have approved legislation backed by Governor Ron DeSantis, which everyone says his name is now Ron DeSoros, which makes no sense. He's not, folks. Ron DeSantis is not backed by George Soros. I hate to use this term. That is a conspiracy theory. It doesn't make sense. Logically, it doesn't make sense. Why, if the guy was backed by George Soros, would he fire a prosecutor that was also backed by George Soros? Why? That one's got to be explained to me. All George Soros said was that he thinks that Ron DeSantis will win the primary because he's a shrewd and cunning person. It's true. Florida lawmakers have approved legislation backed by Governor Ron DeSantis that would permit the death penalty for those convicted of sexually abusing children. Good thing or bad thing? I say good thing. I say good thing for the safety of Florida, for the safety of Florida's children. I say that's a good thing, not a bad thing. I would hope everybody would agree that that's a good thing and not a bad thing. The bipartisan proposal, which passed by a vote of 34-5 late Tuesday, will allow juries to hand down death sentences by votes of at least 8-4 after previously requiring unanimity. So, it used to have to be a unanimous conclusion that the sexual abuser, the death sentence, would be approved. Now it's only 8-4. The bill, which passed the Florida House of Representatives 95-14 last week, in which DeSantis is expected to sign, would apply to those convicted of abusing a child under the age of 12. Quote, my view is you have some of these people that will be serial rapists of 6, 7-year-old kids, DeSantis told Good Morning Orlando on Monday. I think the death penalty is the only appropriate punishment when you have situations like that. Anybody agree? It's okay to agree with Ron DeSantis on this one, folks. It doesn't mean you're betraying Trump. It doesn't mean you're having second thoughts. It means that what he is saying is true. The death penalty for child rapists is a good thing. Whether it was DeSantis that proposed it, whether it was Donald Trump that proposed it, whether, quite frankly, it was a Democrat that proposed it, this is a good thing. And this is what I call being fair. The fact that, not just on the show, but on social media as a whole, if I say, let's be fair, Ron DeSantis has done good things for Florida. You're a rhino. You're betraying Donald Trump. How the hell would I, first of all, how would it be in my best interest to betray Donald Trump? Folks, you see the content that I do. From that standpoint alone, that would make me a really dumb person. But first and foremost, I think Donald Trump is the man for the times right now. And he's not perfect either. So if we're going to criticize Ron DeSantis for some of his hiring decisions or the people that he surrounded himself with, let's remember that Donald Trump surrounded himself with absolute swamp creatures. He hired Christopher Wray, Rex Tillerson, Mad Dog Mattis. He endorsed Dr. Oz, which the Q crowd said he did on purpose to lose. Does Donald Trump seem like somebody who would want to lose on purpose to you? And this guy's not number one when it comes to hiring. Who is Donald Trump's vice president? The guy whose nickname is now Judas Pence. Ladies and gentlemen, again, nobody's perfect. I'm not taking shots at Trump. I'm telling you that the shots that you want to take at DeSantis can also be applied to Donald Trump as well. Who is Donald Trump's second attorney general? Oh, yeah, Bill Barr. That's right. We don't like him now either, do we? No, we don't. We don't like him. Donald Trump endorsed Mitch McConnell. Why would he do that? only for McConnell to stab him in the back, because sometimes you don't see it coming. Now, Ron DeSantis is cozying up to the Bushes, the Murdochs, and all of these people that we don't like. Fine, I get it, so we'll criticize that. But that doesn't undo all of the good things that he did. The fact of the matter is that people in Florida are a lot better off now than they were before 2018. That's part of the Trump effect. That's part of the DeSantis effect. The fact of the matter is, yes, Ron DeSantis did push the vaccine. Donald Trump pushed it the whole way through. Operation Warp Speed. Do we forget that? He still won't condemn it. Not once. Ron DeSantis, among the first governors in the country, aside from governors of very small populations that didn't lock down. I know Kristi Noem didn't lock down, but Kristi Noem was also very wishy-washy on the transgender women and men and women sports thing for a little while. And the ins and outs of that is because that bill was poison-pilled, and we can get to that on another day. The fact of the matter is, you're not going to find a perfect politician. I love Rand Paul. He's not perfect. I love Donald Trump. He's not perfect. I like Ron DeSantis. He's not perfect, because nobody's perfect. He was among one of the first governors to back down on mask mandates in schools, in public places. He was one of the first governors to say, we're not doing lockdowns. We're not doing curfews. The state still has a zero income tax in terms of personal income. The state is running a surplus when it comes to their budget. Has it become more expensive to live there? Yes, but that's because almost 500,000 people moved to Florida. So there's a higher demand for housing. There's a higher demand for land. And let's not forget that up until 2018, when DeSantis took over as governor, Florida was a purple state. So the legislation in Florida was that of a purple state. Was that of a state that did not want to go too far from the center, because the demographic of the electorate there was very back and forth between Democrats and Republicans. Now almost 500,000 people moved to Florida, folks, not just over the last year, over the last 4 years, but according to the Tampa Bay Economic Development Council, from July 2021 to July 2022, nearly 444,500 people moved to Florida, which compared to the previous year was a gain of 185,000. Meaning, over the last 2 years, from July of 2020 to July of 2022, because we can't say anything about July of 2023 yet because we're not there yet, over 500,000, almost 750,000 people moved to the state of Florida. Did they do it because it's a rat-infested S-hole? Or did they do it because it looked like a place where you can have your freedoms? Sure, I know a lot of retirees go down there because it's warm. You don't have to deal with much of the winter. There's a cold snap here, a cold snap there, but you're very, very, very rarely going to see snow, specifically in South Florida. It's warm all the time. It feels good on your joints. I hear it all the time. It's good for arthritis. But the point of the matter is, a lot of people moved there. We always make this argument about how the United States is not a racist country, right? If the United States was such a racist country, why does everybody want to come here? If Florida is such a bad state, why did so many people move there? Now you look at the correlation of the amount of people that moved to Florida and the swing in voter registration. Republicans are up almost 800,000 registered voters in the state of Florida since this mass influx began. They have an advantage of almost 500,000 registered voters in Florida. We've never seen that before. That's not all Ron DeSantis, obviously not. But do you think people would have flocked there in these numbers if there wasn't a really good reason to go there, like a low-income tax? Yes, the weather is a factor, but the fact that you have a governor that's not infringing on people's rights? Have we forgotten this? I'm not coming out here trying to be Ron DeSantis' defense attorney. The defense attorney that I'm playing right now is the defense of being fair. That let's criticize him where we can, but let's stop with this nonsense that everybody who says one thing that we don't like is a rhino. I'm tired of that. I was a rhino last year for about 3 months because I'd supported Lee Zeldin, of all people. Lee Zeldin. Me. I supported him. I was a rhino. I'm tired of it, folks. It's ridiculous. It's honestly, it's irrational. This is no better than what the left does. Oh, you like Donald Trump? You're a Nazi. Oh, you think Ron DeSantis is a good governor? You're a rhino. Enough. So people are flocking to Florida in droves. They're not doing it because it's a bad state to live. So that statement that Trump put out yesterday was silly. Criticism where it's due. It was silly. Florida hasn't had the makeup in the state legislature or a governor that was as aggressive as Ron DeSantis to pass legislation and laws in Florida that would make it look more like a red state from a legal standpoint. Now they have the ability to do that in this legislative session. Let's see where it goes. And a lot of people in Florida, it's funny because you're like, well, if Florida was so great, how come they don't want Ron DeSantis to run? Because they don't want him to leave as the governor. They enjoy the way he's governing. They know if he runs for president and he wins, he can't serve as the governor of Florida anymore. They don't want them. They don't want him gone yet. So that's what I want to see. I want to see Ron DeSantis 2 solid terms in Florida. Make that a stronghold, a conservative stronghold. Make that the state that other people can follow, the blueprint that other people can follow, and then run for president in 2028. That's what I would like to see DeSantis do. But now we have this polarization. You have never Trump, which these are a bunch of idiots, and they've been a bunch of idiots for a long time. I will never vote for Trump. I'll vote for Biden before I vote for Trump. I see people now doing the same thing on our side called only Trump, where if Trump is not the nominee, they're gonna stay home. You want 4 more years of what you're dealing with now? Does that make any sense to you? Folks, if you're an only Trump voter, I am losing respect for you by the gallon here. I mean, like, it's serious. Because you would rather put this country through 4 more years of a Democrat president than vote for Ron DeSantis? Are you kidding me? Put your pride, put your ego, put your stubbornness aside, and this is coming from a very stubborn person, and just admit it's okay to say you would vote for DeSantis so that you could avoid 4 more years of this. Because as Dan Bongino says, Republicans may not solve all your problems, but if the last 4 years could teach us anything, it's that Democrats will always cause the problems. Always. You're really gonna let this go on? You're gonna do what the Never Trumpers do? Really? You're no better than them. Why? Because Ron DeSantis has the endorsement of Jeb Bush? I don't like that. That makes me uncomfortable. But what makes me more uncomfortable is a cognitively declining, rotting bag of oatmeal, as Bongino calls it, running this country for another 4 years. Or even worse, Gavin Newsom. What are you going to vote for RFK Jr.? Oh, yeah, because he's anti-vax. Great. He's also anti-gun. We got to think before we say these things. We got to think. Use your heads. If you're an only Trumper, ask yourself, if Donald Trump, for some reason, doesn't win the nomination, you're really going to stay home and let your country be run by the regime in power now? That's what you'd rather do instead of putting your pride aside and putting an end to it? Really? Seriously. I don't like the establishment, but I have no problem saying if Donald Trump is not the nominee and Ron DeSantis is, I will be not only voting for DeSantis, but fighting like hell to make sure that we boot this current regime out of the White House, that we take a stronger majority in Congress, that we take a stronger majority in the Senate, that God forbid something happens to Clarence Thomas between 2024 and 2028, or Justice Alito between 2024 and 2028, that we have the people in place that can put on a justice that'll keep the Supreme Court fair. Does any of this matter to anybody? Are we thinking about any of those implications? Judging by the reactions on social media, the answer to that question is no. Judging by the reactions I saw the other day in the live chat when I started saying I think we should just be fair and no, I'm thinking we're not thinking this through. We're worried about the next 24 hours instead of worrying about the next 24 years. Do you want a country? I'm not telling you we can't criticize DeSantis. I have come out and done a stream on a Saturday, says we should be criticizing everybody where it's due, but we shouldn't be jumping to silly conclusions and criticizing for the sake of saying, well, I took a stand against Ron because I'm the super mega ultra amazing Trump supporter. We don't need a you know what measuring contest over who supports Trump the most. All of our votes count the same. And unfortunately, that's what we're getting into. Oh, yeah, you support Trump? I support him more than you. How do you know? Oh, because I think Ron DeSantis is a rhino. Oh, really? Oh, well, I think Ron DeSantis is a super rhino. Oh, yeah, really? Well, this is how long my you know what is, and yours is short. Stop. Just stop. This is stupid. I'm old enough to remember when we threw a freaking party, basically, that Ron DeSantis sent illegal immigrants to Martha's Vineyard. Oh, he's so brave. I'm old enough to remember when he passed the Don't Say Gay bill. Oh, by the way, update on the Don't Say Gay bill, by the way. Update on the Don't Say Gay bill. Not only is it passed, everyone said, oh, it's only for the... They've passed it to include all grades now. All grades. All grades. Article from News 4 in Florida out of Jacksonville. The Florida Board of Education on Wednesday approved a ban on classroom instruction about sexual orientation and gender identity in all grades, expanding the parental rights and education law at the request of Ron DeSantis as he gears up for an expected presidential run. Critics call it the Don't Say Gay bill. The proposal will take effect after a procedural notice period that lasts about a month, according to an education department spokesperson. Good thing or bad thing? I say it's a good thing. We've been talking about how to shut down the indoctrination in schools. This appears to be the way to do it. Does this mean I want DeSantis to win the nomination in 2024? No. Does this mean I think he can still do good things while I support another candidate? Yes. The fact that I've been tattooed for saying that is ridiculous in my opinion. The rule change would ban lessons on sexual orientation and gender identity from grades 4 through 12 unless required by existing state standards or as a part of reproductive health instruction that students can choose not to take. Florida currently bans such lessons in kindergarten through 3rd grade. This would ban it all the way. Education Commissioner Manny Diaz Jr. said this is meant to clarify any confusion around the law that is already in place. He said it also reinforces that teachers should not move away from already existing curriculums. Some lawmakers say this protects children. Quote, school is only so long, Representative Randy Fine, a Republican from Brevard, told CNN. There's only so many minutes in a day. There's only so many minutes in a year. And every minute they waste on social indoctrination is a minute they haven't spent teaching. Good thing or bad thing? Good thing. When we talk about schools, we talk about how to prevent these kids from coming through the college system, the high school system, the public school system with their fists in the air, virtue signaling their wokeness. This is how we do it. He's showing us how to do it. This is not a bad thing. I like when I see things like this. We all should. Again, now we go into the Florida Department of Education. Florida college system presidents reject woke diversity, equity, and inclusion, critical race theory ideologies, and embrace academic freedom. This again, if you're going to school, in college in Florida, to a Florida state school, you're not getting indoctrinated like this anymore. Or at least you're far less likely to see that. January 18th, 2023. Florida college system presidents reject woke diversity, equity, and inclusion, critical race theory ideologies, and embrace academic freedom. Folks, you know we've been waging war. I personally have been waging war on DEI since April of 2021. When I was on Long Island, we were fighting with the Smithtown Board of Ed and trying to run school board candidates all over the place to put an end to this stuff. Jacksonville, Florida, January 2023. Today, the Florida college system presidents publicly supported Governor Ron DeSantis' vision of higher education, one free from indoctrination, an environment open to the pursuit of truth, and the cultivation of intellectual autonomy for all students. Again, good thing or a bad thing? If we can't simply give credit that this is a good thing because he's the guy that we think is a threat to Donald Trump, then we don't really base ourselves in any sort of ideology. Then we are in a cult of personality, folks. I hate to use the terminology that the left uses, cult, but it's true. Giving DeSantis credit about these things and these issues is not taking credit or taking points away from Donald Trump. It's not taking our ultra MAGA points away from us. It's simply saying that the man has done good things in the state, and that's okay to say that. And again, I'll preface it again because I'm going to have to say it a million times. We've got people joining, not joining, whatever. that I don't support a DeSantis presidency in 2024 over a Trump presidency in 2024. I support Donald Trump in the 2024 presidential primary and in the 2024 presidential election. But because I support Donald Trump in 2024, that doesn't mean that I think Ron DeSantis is evil, or that he's a rhino, or that he's the devil. I'm sorry, I don't exist in that world. I'm not in a cult of personality. I'm not comfortable with some of the people that are surrounding him right now. And I'm not afraid to say that. That's why I don't support DeSantis in the primary. But I'm not going to trash the guy when he has been one of the best governors in this country since 2018. I'm not going to do that because that's not fair. Because then I have to go back and look at myself 5 months ago saying, I think Ron DeSantis is great. I think he's a great, and go, well, sorry, I was wrong about all that. No. I don't believe I was wrong about all that. I think he has been a very strong governor and a very strong example for what we should ask from governors across the country. Take a look at Alvin Bragg in New York, a Soros-backed prosecutor. If Lee Zeldin had won that governor's race in 2022, his promise on day one would be to hand termination papers to Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. Bragg would then have had his day in court and could very well have been fired because the New York State Constitution allows a governor to remove a district attorney if they're not enforcing the law. And we certainly know that Alvin Bragg is not enforcing the law. Okay? We know that. Do you know who the only governor in the country is to fire a Soros-based prosecutor? It's the guy that if we say good things about, we get destroyed all over the place for doing so. Ron DeSantis, August 4th, 2022. By the way, when we all still liked him. DeSantis boots woke prosecutor Andrew Warren for failing to enforce state laws. Now, I guarantee you, if we go back in time to August and find any conservative right now that has demonized Ron DeSantis, they would have celebrated this move. I don't want to look at myself 8 months ago, or however long it's going to be. I don't want to look at myself 8 months ago and say, well, 8 months I was wrong. My credibility's gone if I do that. So, in August, if we said this was a good thing back in August, well, he wasn't coming out against Trump then. Okay, so he's coming out against Trump, so you don't like that? That doesn't mean this wasn't a good move. That doesn't mean he doesn't care about doing things like this. And this rumor that Ron DeSantis is backed by George Soros isn't true. Soros said a sort of nice thing about him in a statement, which I did find odd. But that doesn't mean it was an endorsement. That doesn't mean it's a piece of evidence that says that Ron DeSantis is backed or funded by George Soros. Certainly not. DeSantis boots woke prosecutor Andrew Warren for failing to enforce state laws. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis suspended a George Soros-backed progressive prosecutor Thursday for declining to enforce several state laws, including the Sunshine State's 15-week abortion ban. So I know we have a very big pro-life audience. He did this because of a pro-life issue. We're now going to forget all of that because we think he might run against Donald Trump, and that he probably is, folks. I saw the ads. He's probably going to run, and I think that's a huge mistake for DeSantis, and I don't think he's got a shot in the 2024 primary. I really don't. But we're going to say that this move that he made out of respect, out of his principles for the pro-life movement wasn't a good thing. We're going to erase all of the good things that he did because he made one bad decision here, because he surrounded himself with some bad people. Again, I'm not comfortable with the fact that he surrounded himself with bad people. I'm just saying we can still be fair and say I think Ron DeSantis deep down inside is a strong conservative because there's too much evidence that points to that. You want to take this argument and say I don't think someone's a conservative? You can look at the governor of Texas right now, Greg Abbott, because he only gets conservative when he needs to win some votes. Ron DeSantis had an unbelievable run from 2018 to 2022 as the governor of Florida. Donald Trump helped bring people to Florida too. They were friends for a while. This doesn't make Donald Trump look very good. As a matter of fact, what it does for me is I go, did he make another hiring mistake? Is this another one of those endorsements that he shouldn't have endorsed back in the day? The fact that he came out and started defending Charlie Crist is odd. The fact that he came out and started defending Disney is odd. The fact that he supported or cited an ESPN report in his latest statement owned by Disney is odd, folks.
Trump did all that?
Oh, yeah. I don't like that. I still support him, but I criticize that move. We cannot let this idea that, oh, well, Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis is betraying him, he's backstabbing him, he's distancing himself from him. We can't let that erase the fact. It's a fact that he has done good things, very good things for the state of Florida, and I don't think he's done yet. And again, with all of that being said, I still support Donald Trump in the 2024 primary wholeheartedly. So don't come at me and say you're a rhino, you're backstabbing Trump, you're doing this, you're doing that. Not at all. That's it. That's where I am now. So let's have a discussion and let's talk about everything that I just went on. And I see a lot of people not happy with it. A lot of people dropped out of the conversation. Apparently don't want to put their money where their mouths are.
A lot of them that were complaining the other day aren't even in here. They didn't even show up.
I see Getter right now, their live stream. I know that we had issues with connectivity. I see everything here. I see, let me go follow up here with the, someone says here, we know who you're voting for. Barbara Wallen on Facebook. Matter of fact, can I put this comment on the screen? I don't think I can. That stinks. I'm voting for Trump. I don't get why we're so
many times.
I've said it about 15 or 20 times on this stream. But I also believe that Ron DeSantis has done a good job, and I just gave you evidence as to why I believe he did a good job.
Shoot, I lived it.
I mean, I am so confused as to why doing what I just did is something that you're not supposed to do. Very confused about it. Very confused about it. Now, I'm voting for Trump. I'm voting for Trump unapologetically. But as Matthias is saying in the chat, wait, who are you voting for?
He's joking.
I know. It is alarming to me. It is alarming to me that we have this idea that if you say a good thing about Ron DeSantis, that somehow you're doing something wrong. I guess, and there were a lot of people who were watching in the beginning who dropped out. I guess they think that that child rapists shouldn't get the death penalty because Ron DeSantis signed the bill. This is like DeSantis derangement syndrome. And I think if you're deranged by anything a person says off the bat without listening to the context or listening to the substance of the argument, that ain't going to be me, folks. And I may not always tell you what you want to hear, but I'm always going to tell you what I believe is true. The fact that what I just saw today in terms of where we were, how many people were they probably, he's voting for DeSantis. Meanwhile, in the description below the show, if anybody has any questions, the first sentence is, I am wholeheartedly supporting Donald Trump in the 2024 primary, but I also believe Ron DeSantis has done a fine job as the governor of Florida thus far. It's unbelievable. And this just proves what I was saying, that we will overlook the meat, the substance of a discussion because of one thing a person says. It's unbelievable. It makes me lose faith in the movement, folks. It makes me lose faith in the fact that we are. It makes me lose faith in our ability to use logic and reason to discuss things. I want Donald Trump to run because he's got unfinished business. I want Donald Trump to run, and I want him to win because he won't have re-election hanging over his head. I want him to win because he can learn from his mistakes and be incredibly effective as a president in his second term. I want him to run because I truly believe we were robbed of a second Donald Trump term. Robbed of it. I want him to run and win because I think he's the only man right now who can declare himself an outsider with the ability to stand up to the swamp because he's not owned by the swamp. I wholeheartedly want this man to run. I want him, as Dr. Goats Kisses says in the chat, to go scorched earth on the deep state. I want him to dismantle the FBI. I want him to clean house of all of the unelected bureaucrats that are running this country into the ground. I wholeheartedly want him to run. I wholeheartedly want him to win. Not just the primary, but the general election. And I do think it's more than possible. And yet, because I said that Ron DeSantis has done a good job in Florida with some new legislation, older legislation, expanding parental rights in education, signing a bill and passing a bill and backing a bill that would make the death penalty for child sex offenders legal, because I said I like those things, I lose MAGA points. No better than the left. That is a cult of personality. That is dangerous. And I won't do that. I just won't do that. Well, we know who you're voting for. Yeah, you should know because it's in the freaking description. It says I'm wholeheartedly supporting Donald Trump. Wholeheartedly means I'm doing that unapologetically. It means I basically, unless I see Donald Trump in the street eating a baby, have made up my mind. It is unbelievable. It is. I am alarmed at this. If we can't use logic and we can't use reason and we can't be fair in our discussions, then we are literally no better than the left. And I refuse to resign myself to that. Yeah. So now if anybody thinks that I'm wrong on this issue, I'm ready for you. If anybody thinks that I'm wrong, or if anybody thinks that I'm not reading this correctly, I'm ready for you. Now is the time to put the money where the mouth is. 631-527-4545. And we'll talk about why we think that I am incorrect in my assessment of the Trump and DeSantis and how to be fair. And I can't wait for the Republican primary. And I can't wait for Donald Trump to win the Republican primary. And I can't wait to campaign hard as hell for him in the 2024 election. And while that happens, when Ron DeSantis continues to do good things in the state of Florida, I'm going to continue to tell people and going to continue to say that I agree that Ron DeSantis is doing good things in the state of Florida. So the phone number is on the screen. If you think I'm wrong and you think I shouldn't be saying or giving any sort of credit to Ron DeSantis, or you think I'm some sort of traitor to the MAGA movement, which is hilarious, or you think that I shouldn't be, we have a phone, we have a call coming in. Let's see what we have. Hello there. Welcome to the show. Who do I have the pleasure of speaking with?
Oh, just your best friend here in North Carolina.
Hey, my best friend in North Carolina. I think this would be Matthias. Is this correct?
Yes, it is.
All right,
What's
how
up,
are we
guys?
doing, sir?
Doing wonderful.
So what's up?
Finally getting a chance to call in. So it's funny you're talking about this whole DeSantis-Trump thing, and I got kind of roasted on Truth Social back when Christie played Roger Stone going on, talking about, DeSantis is going to run, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And my thing was, the point I was trying to get across is that the way they were presenting it was planting a seed to cause this massive division to avoid seeing what the good things DeSantis did as a governor and then putting two parties against each other. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, and I think so primaries are good because the divide in a sense that are caused by primaries, the divide that's caused by primaries, I think gives us an opportunity. I always equate it to sports. If you're a sports fan, if you're a team that doesn't practice against itself, and there are sometimes fights break out in practice, but the team comes together and eventually is ready to go game time, unless we don't have a good coach, right? Like, we need to practice and challenge ourselves. We need to challenge ourselves now so that by the general election we can win.
Right. It's the whole point of the iron sharpens iron concept.
Correct.
The fact that we have two strong parties there's no reason to be going at bat against each other and questioning who's for who, who's better, or this or that. And there's just been, over the past, 5-6 months that it's been going on slowly starting to see a divide within the party, which is stupid.
Yeah, and I'm cautious about using the term divide or division. Obviously, people are going to choose their sides. They're going to be in different camps. There's going to be a DeSantis campaign, it looks like, and people are going to, it's going to get contentious, probably more contentious than now. And there are a lot of us, and I would even consider myself, as I am on Trump. I'm on Team Trump, right? I'm like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to vote for him in the primaries when they roll around, when that cycle starts. But like, I feel like I'm caught in the middle of these two just extremely polarized sides that are just firing at each other. And it's like, guys, just calm down. Like, first of all, Donald Trump has a 30-point lead in the polls. Why are we even worried about this? Number two, like, if someone is supporting DeSantis, let them. Because if you go at them and start taking personal attacks at that person supporting DeSantis, you're just going to turn them off from coming around in the future.
Exactly. That's what I'm getting at, is the point of causing, I guess divide might not be the right term.
No, I know what you mean.
But it's a risk that it's not needed, because ultimately we need to be America first. And like you were saying earlier, is that whoever it is, we need to be behind that person regardless. And then, just like how, the things going on in the Senate with Marjorie Taylor Greene, all those guys holding the feet to the fire on the speaker, is the same concept needs to come down to the presidency. And that's ultimately whoever it is. If it's Trump, obviously we already know what he's planning to do, what he's going to do. And if it's DeSantis, it's going to be holding him to the fire of saying, hey, this is what you said you're going to do. We need to do it.
Yeah, and I think if you look at Florida as a whole, I just don't think a weak rhino governor would be signing bills and passing legislation in Florida that DeSantis is passing. And so I won't call him a rhino. I know that he's associating with a lot of people that we don't like. I don't like Paul Ryan. I've been very outspoken about the fact that he gives big-eared people like me a bad name. I don't like Karl Rove. I'm not a big fan of Rupert Murdoch and all of those people. But that just because I don't like them doesn't render everything Ron DeSantis did, not true, or that could never happened. And I in August when he fired the Soros prosecutor, I was like, that's great. That's what Zeldin wants to do. We all said the same thing. Now we're just going to ignore that and make up rumors that he's backed by George Soros. It's just simply not true.
And what you said earlier was a great point too. I mean, Trump was surrounded by, put it in plain terms, shitty people.
Yeah.
And it was bad decisions on his end, obviously not knowing better, not being in the political spectrum. But what's to say DeSantis doesn't do the same thing?
Right. So, you just don't know. And I know he's riding establishment, he's using establishment money, and they may have a lot of say. And it makes me uncomfortable. That's why I'm not supporting him. But I'm not going to look and say, well, because he's backed by these people, everything that he did for the state of Florida is washed out. It's wiped out. That's just
get undone.
That's just silly
exactly.
because it doesn't because the fact of the matter is it doesn't get undone. The Parental Rights Act in Florida is still there. The death sentences for child sex predators is still there. The law that he said you can actually if there's a protester standing in front of your car, you can hit them with your vehicle. That's still a thing,
right.
Regardless of who's backing him now. Those are all still things that we like. I mean,
that's foundational. That's the foundational resume of the blueprint for what the rest of the states need to do. So
correct.
That's a positive thing to follow on, and to build his resume up and to follow through with that. And other people need to start taking note of things. And I know I'm taking up a lot of time, but I got to see Mark Robinson here in North Carolina speak, and that guy's another firebrand that's going to be coming up because we've been stuck with this booty Roy Cooper that is just probably one of the worst governors you can imagine. And Mark Robinson is our lieutenant governor right now, and the things that he's been promoting are very DeSantis like, because we've been mostly a red state, but it's I live outside of Charlotte, which is
blue,
liberal as God knows,
and that's where we are in Nashville. It's the same kind of makeup
right
here.
But it's just, you see all the other governors starting to kind of, take line and, put their foot in the door like how DeSantis has done with Florida. And, that's what we need all around.
Yeah, and I think if we had, look, and the final point that I'll make here, and then we'll try and jump to another call, but if we had more red state governors in the United States like DeSantis, I think people would be happier in those states than if it was status quo, right? I think if more
100%.
governors governed like Ron DeSantis, that those people in states like Texas, where Greg Abbott is somewhat strong, but I mean, sometimes we have questions about him. If the governor of North Carolina and South Carolina, and if, let's say, even Kemp in Georgia was anywhere near like Ron DeSantis was, I think people would feel a little differently about Georgia, right? We don't like Governor Kemp in Georgia. I mean, if we had red state governors across the country that governed like Ron DeSantis, I think it would be better and not worse.
Correct.
So
all right,
Matthias,
brother.
thank
Good
you for
talking to
calling,
you. We'll
man.
see you guys in June.
Good to talk to you. We'll see you in June.
All right, brother.
Later. All right. Anybody else? I mean, he made good points. Living in a red state, living around a blue area. And again, I'm just not here for this hysterical battle between, well, you said something good about Ron DeSantis, so you must not like Donald Trump. I mean, those comments still came out today on this stream. Look at the ticker going. Look at the words going by on your ticker. 3 words. I support Trump. I mean, it's there. It's in the description. I said it 1,000,000 times, and it still didn't sink into people. You know how crazy that is when you could say something and whoever you're talking to isn't listening? Doesn't that just make you feel like you're wasting your time? You ever get into a conversation with a leftist and you tell them, I'm pro-life, and they go, well, you're women's rights. Men aren't women. Yes, they are. No, they're not. I mean, this is the kind of discussion that we're having. It just blows my mind that we have fallen into left-wing-esque pitfalls with regards to the Trump-DeSantis stuff. We got time for a few more calls. I have a call I got to be on in about an hour, so I'd like to get ready for that too in a little bit. Just blows my mind that we have discussions and viewpoint, and everyone's entitled to their opinion. I'm not saying you're not entitled to your opinion. It's very simple. But like, it just, that's what, yeah. Gretchen Herbster here on Facebook says, you can support Trump and still agree with DeSantis' policies. True. Lisa Severn's on Facebook. I'm in Oregon. We need a better governor. Let's see. Here we go. Yeah, Roy Pooper. Tony Bennett must be a Nashville resident. A candidate can't control who supports them, only what money they accept. If someone wants to win, the more votes, the better. I mean, that's 100 true. D's nuts on YouTube. There's someone with D's. Look at the Illuminati board game Trump has played as a card, and many things have come to pass from this game, and the last card is the fake alien invasion. All right. Lisa Severns in Facebook says conservatives should be open-minded and rational with common sense and logic. Yep, that's apparently a lost art these days. I challenged anybody who thought that what I was saying was wrong to come on here and talk to me but I did come with evidence. I did come with facts. I did come with legislation. And I wanted to, again, beautiful 11754. They read the headlines kind of people, but don't read the article. It's true. Well, this was the opportunity for anybody who had an issue with what I was saying to tell me. And so far I had Matthias, who came on and basically said that he agrees with the stance. And let it be known, I'm not supporting Ron DeSantis in the primary. It's unbelievable how many people still can't realize that. It's in the description. It's in the ticker. I've said it, 20 times that I support Trump. Somehow that means I don't support Trump. Could you just imagine living in a world where that is what you think? So this is the last call for anybody out there who wants to have the debate over why you shouldn't be able to give Ron DeSantis credit for the good things that he's done in the state of Florida. I'm going to give it another 30 seconds because we have the obvious Rumble delay and everybody's watching on a stream. But if you don't call now, where it's open season, then as Wanda says in the chat, perhaps the term keyboard warrior is appropriate. I'm just trying to be fair. And if you can't be fair, then we are really no better than the left. It's pretty crazy. Well, we're going to come out here and say going once. I'm going to come out here and say going twice. And we're going to say sold. They had their chances. And we'll probably do calls about this again in the future because it's not going away anytime soon. We'll do it again in the future. But as for now, I bid you farewell. Thank you for joining me today. It's pretty funny. The absence, and I get it, people have things to do. It's not, But this was the chance to tell me why I was reading it wrong. And if I was reading it wrong, I would have loved to have been told why. I have an open mind, but I'm not supporting DeSantis. Does not mean that I don't like what he's doing in Florida. Trump is my president. That's true. I'm not supporting him in the primary, but I do think that what he's done in Florida has been incredible. And I had some insight into that last January. I was flying down there. It was a Florida judge that overturned the mask mandates. I mean, a lot of good things happen in Florida and have been the foundation for the conservative movement going forward. But if you say that and you give credit to Ron DeSantis, bad things happen to you. Is what it is, folks. Thanks so much for watching and listening. I'll see you on Monday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern. 9 a.m. Central, rumble.com/LFATV for Ungoverned. Before we jump away and before we go, folks, if you are having a tough time sleeping, we've got the MyPillow. MyPillow 2.0. Sean 45. Check it out. Go ahead and get that. It's the 2.0 is good. The towels are also really good. The slippers, the slides are really cool. We have a little throw blanket. We got a lot of MyPillow stuff here now. MyPillow.com, promo code Sean 45. For a great deal, specifically the buy one, get one on MyPillow 2.0. Go check it out, and we will catch you on Monday. Thanks for the conversation today, folks. Really appreciate it. And again, I support Donald Trump, but I think Ron DeSantis is a good governor. And you're looking at and listening to an example of why both things can be true. Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend. God bless you, and God bless America.